I never thought I'd be the person to destroy someone's life over a dog walk. But 6 months ago, I called Adult Protective Services on my downstairs neighbor, and by the time it was over, his 84-year-old mother was in a facility. He'd lost his apartment, and I was standing in my kitchen at 2 in the morning wondering if I was the hero or the monster. My name is Chloe Martinez. I'm 24 years old. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, in one of those beige mid-rise buildings off Camelback Road that looks decent in photos, but has walls so thin you can hear your neighbor's phone vibrate. I'm a UX designer. I work from home. My boyfriend Mark stays over 4, maybe 5 nights a week, but his name's not on the lease. It's just me in Unit 304. Third floor. Corner unit. And for the first 6 months I lived there, it was perfect. Then I met Arthur Whitaker. Or more accurately, Arthur Whitaker decided to meet me. It was June 14th, a Thursday, 11:07 at night. I know because I checked my phone right before it happened. I was walking Biscuit, my rescue mutt who refuses to pee before 10 p.m. like some kind of diva, and I was half paying attention, scrolling through Instagram, when this man just stepped out from behind the dumpster enclosure. Not walked. Stepped. Like he'd been waiting. He was maybe 55. Thinning hair, glasses, polo shirt tucked into khakis even though it was 92 degrees. He had this look on his face like a high school vice principal about to tell you your skirt's too short. And he said, "Excuse me, is that your apartment?" He was pointing up. At my building. At the 3rd floor. At my corner unit with the string lights on the balcony. I pulled out my earbuds. Yeah. I'm Arthur Whitaker. Unit 204. Directly below you. He didn't offer his hand, just kept his arms crossed. My mother is 84 years old. She can't sleep. The noise from your unit needs to stop. I just stood there. Biscuit was sniffing his shoe, and he stepped back like she was radioactive. "I'm sorry," I said. "What noise?" Footsteps. Furniture moving. Slamming. Late at night. Early in the morning. Constantly. He said it like he was reading from a script. My mother is elderly. She's a light sleeper. This has been going on for weeks. Here's the thing. I'd been out of town for 5 days, visiting my parents in Tucson. I'd left that previous Saturday and gotten back Wednesday afternoon. So, unless my apartment had developed poltergeist activity, there was no way I'd been making noise for weeks. I told him that. I wasn't even home. I was in Tucson. He didn't blink. "Well, it's been happening. And it needs to stop tonight." Then he did this thing where he tilted his head and his voice dropped, and he said, "And the marijuana smell. That needs to stop too. My mother has respiratory issues. I don't smoke. Mark does occasionally, but never inside, and he hadn't been over in almost a week because he was covering shifts at the hospital. But I didn't say that. I just said, okay, I'll keep it down. Because I was alone, in a parking lot, at 11 at night, with a man who'd clearly been watching my apartment closely enough to know which unit was mine. He nodded once. "Thank you." Then he walked back toward the building. I stood there for maybe 3 minutes after he left. My hands were shaking. Biscuit finally peed. We went back inside, and I locked both locks and put the security chain on for the first time since I'd moved in. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told Mark what happened. We were sitting at my kitchen table, this little IKEA thing I'd bought on sale, and he was eating cereal and scrolling through his phone. "That's weird," he said. "Did you make a lot of noise?" "Mark, I wasn't home. I mean before that. I walk around my apartment. I have a desk chair with wheels. Sometimes I drop things. That's it." He shrugged. "Maybe just be more careful. Old people are sensitive." I wanted to throw the cereal box at him. Instead I said, "He was waiting for me. Outside. At night. That's not normal. He probably just wanted to talk to you. He ambushed me." Mark looked up. "Okay, yeah, that's a little weird. But like, what are you gonna do? He's just some old guy worried about his mom." I wouldn't stress about it. But I was stressed about it. Because something about the whole interaction felt wrong. Not just uncomfortable. Wrong. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I started paying attention. For the next week, I watched their apartment. Not in a creepy way. I didn't camp out with binoculars or anything, but I started noticing things. Arthur left every morning at 7:15. Exactly 7:15. I'd be making coffee and I'd hear his door close, hear his footsteps on the stairs, hear his car start. A silver Honda Accord, Arizona plate number starting with BMK. He worked somewhere regular, somewhere with a schedule. He'd come back every evening at 6:30.
Same time.
Like clockwork. His mother, Eleanor, never left. Not once. I started keeping track. June 15th, didn't leave. June 16th, didn't leave. June 17th, 18th, 19th, nothing. I'd see her sometimes through the window, if the blinds were cracked. Just sitting in this chair by the window. Never moving. Just sitting. No visitors. No home health aides. No grocery deliveries. Nothing. And the lights. Their lights were on weird schedules. Sometimes on at 3 a.m. Sometimes off all day. Like someone was awake at completely random hours. I started documenting everything. I know that sounds paranoid, but I had this feeling, this gut feeling that I was going to need proof of something eventually. June 20th. I was working from home, sitting at my desk around 2 in the afternoon, and I sneezed. Just a normal sneeze. Maybe 30 seconds later, I heard it. 3 hard bangs on the ceiling below me. Deliberate. Angry. I sat perfectly still. Didn't move. Didn't make a sound. 5 minutes later, 3 more bangs. I grabbed my phone and recorded it. Video, audio, timestamp. I didn't know what I'd need it for yet, but I was keeping it. That night, I wrote Arthur a letter. I spent 2 hours on it. I wanted it to be perfect, professional but firm. I said something like, "Hi Arthur, I'm sorry if there's been any noise from my unit. I work from home, and I'll do my best to be mindful during quiet hours. However, I don't appreciate being approached the way I was last week. If there are future issues, please direct them to the leasing office so we can resolve them through proper channels. Thanks, Chloe Martinez, Unit 304, *. I printed it, slipped it under their door at 7:30 in the morning, right after Arthur left for work. By noon, he was at the leasing office. I watched him from my living room window. He was pacing in the parking lot, gesturing, clearly pissed. He was in there for 45 minutes. At 3 p.m., I got an email from management. *Hi Chloe, we received a noise complaint from the tenant below you. Please be mindful of noise levels, especially during quiet hours, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Let us know if you have questions. Thanks, Desert Vista Management. *. That was it. No details. No specifics. Just a vague reminder. I replied immediately. Asked what specific incidents were reported. What times? What kind of noise? They never responded. The complaints kept coming. Not to me. To management. I started getting copies of the emails because I'd asked to be CC'd on anything related to my unit. June 23rd. Excessive footsteps from Unit 304 between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. June 26th. Loud music from Unit 304 at 2 p.m. June 29th. Furniture dragging at 10 p.m. July 2nd. Vibrations coming through the ceiling during daytime hours. Vibrations. During daytime hours. I wasn't throwing furniture. I wasn't blasting music. I was sitting at a desk, working on wireframes for healthcare app, occasionally getting up to pee or get coffee. That's it. Mark came over on July 3rd. We ordered Thai food from that place on Indian School Road, Silk Road, the one with the good Panang curry, and we ate on the couch watching Netflix. At maybe 8:30, we heard it. Bang, bang, bang. From below. Mark looked at me. What was that? That's Arthur. Dude. We're just sitting here. I know. He banged again. Harder this time. I could feel it through the couch. Mark got up and walked to the door. I grabbed his arm. Don't. He's banging on his ceiling because we're eating dinner. That's insane. I know. But if you go down there, he'll say you threatened him. That's what he wants. Mark sat back down, but he was tense. We finished the episode in silence. Every 10 minutes, bang, bang, bang. When Mark left that night, I sat on my couch and I cried. Not because I was sad, because I was so angry I didn't know what else to do. This man was training me, like a dog, teaching me that any sound, any movement, any sign of life in my own apartment would be punished. And I realized, if I don't fight back now, this will never stop. July 7th. I took the day off work. Told my boss I had a dentist appointment. Instead, I went to the leasing office. The woman at the desk was maybe 30. Name tag, said Jessica. She had that customer service smile that doesn't reach the eyes.
Hi, I said.
I'm Chloe Martinez, Unit 304. I need to talk to someone about the noise complaints. Her smile tightened.
Oh, yes.
We've been getting those. Can you tell me specifically what's been reported? Dates, times, what kind of noise? She pulled up something on her computer. Scrolled. It looks like mostly footsteps. Some furniture sounds. The tenant below you says it's been constant. Constant. That's what he said. What are the building's quiet hours? She blinked. 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So, noise outside those hours isn't a violation. Well, we ask everyone to be respectful. But it's not a violation, right? She shifted in her seat. Technically, no. I pulled out my phone. Showed her the list of complaints I'd been tracking. June 23rd, 7 a.m. June 26th, 2 p.m. June 29th, 10 p.m. That's before quiet hours. July 2nd, daytime hours, which I'm assuming means daytime. None of these are violations. Jessica looked uncomfortable. We still have to follow up on complaints. Has he filed complaints against any other units? I can't share that. Has anyone else in the building complained about me?
Pause. No.
So it's just him. I really can't discuss other tenants. I want to file a countercomplaint. Harassment. Her eyes widened. Ma'am, I don't think. He approached me alone at night in the parking lot. He's filing false complaints. He bangs on a ceiling when I'm sitting silently on my couch. That's harassment. She wrote something down. Told me she'd pass it along to the property manager. I left knowing nothing would happen. I was right. Nothing happened. I'm not a private investigator. I'm not a lawyer. But I am really, really good at research. It's literally part of my job. User research, competitive analysis, digging through data to find patterns. So, I decided to dig. First stop, public records. Arizona has pretty open public records laws, and a lot of stuff is online, if you know where to look. I started with the basics. Arthur James Whitaker, age 56. Worked as a logistics coordinator for a medical supply company in Tempe. No criminal record. No bankruptcies. No liens.
Clean.
Eleanor Ruth Whitaker, age 84. Widowed. Her husband died in 2019. No criminal record. No active lawsuits. Also clean. But then I found the interesting part. Arthur had a sister, Diane Whitakerchin. She lived in Portland, Oregon. And in 2019, the same year Eleanor's husband died, Diane filed for divorce. The records were public. I pulled them. In the filing, there was a section about reasons for irreconcilable differences. Most people leave it vague, but Diane's lawyer had included a note. Emotional enmeshment with family of origin preventing functional marriage. That's lawyer speak for, your spouse's family is controlling your life and ruining our relationship. I kept digging. Found Diane's Facebook. She hadn't posted anything about her mom or brother since 2019. Not a single birthday post. Not a Mother's Day message. Nothing. I screenshotted everything. Next, I went looking for building records. Our apartment complex is managed by a regional property management company, but they're not great at digital security. I didn't hack anything. I just found an old employee portal that was still live, and I logged in using a default password I found in an IT forum. Took me maybe 20 minutes. I pulled a lease history for Unit 204. Arthur and Eleanor had moved in 4 years ago, July 2021. Before that, they'd lived in a house in Scottsdale. I cross-referenced the address with property records. The house sold in June 2021 for $372,000, below market value for that area, which suggested they'd been in a hurry. Why would you sell a house in a hurry and move into a small apartment? I kept pulling thread after thread. Found homeowner association complaints from their old neighborhood. Noise complaints. Excessive door slamming. Shouting matches between male and female voices. Threats to neighbors. They'd been doing this before. This wasn't new behavior. This was a pattern. July 12th. I hired an acoustic consultant. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But I needed objective proof that I wasn't crazy. His name was Dennis. Late 40s, wearing cargo shorts and a t-shirt that said, "I have measured opinions." He had this whole kit of equipment: sound meters, vibration sensors, recording devices. He spent 3 hours in my apartment. Had me walk around normally. Drag a chair. Close doors.
Drop a book.
He measured everything. Then he went downstairs. Knocked on Arthur's door. Arthur didn't answer, but Dennis left his card and a note explaining what he was doing. 2 days later, Dennis sent me his report. Normal residential noise levels. 42 decibels during regular movement. 51 decibels when closing a cabinet door. 38 decibels when sitting at my desk. All well within acceptable ranges for multifamily housing. No violations. No excessive noise. Nothing. I paid him $350. Worth every penny. I sent the report to management. CC'd the property owner, whose email I'd found in the employee portal. Attached photos of the equipment, timestamp data, everything. Got a reply from the property manager. "Thank you for this information. We'll keep it on file." That was it. Arthur filed another complaint 2 days later. July 18th. The package. I got home from a coffee shop around 2 p.m. There was a box outside my door. Small, white, addressed to Eleanor Whitaker, Unit 204. It happens all the time in our building. The delivery drivers mix up unit numbers. I figured I'd just drop it off downstairs. I picked it up. The return label said, "Horizon Health Partners, Palliative Care Division, Behavioral Health Services." I stood there for a long time, holding that box. Palliative care is end-of-life care, but behavioral health services are for psychiatric issues. Why would an 84-year-old woman receiving palliative care need behavioral health support? I didn't open it. I'm not a monster. But I did take a photo of the label. Then I walked downstairs and left it in front of their door. Didn't knock. Just left it and walked away. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I called Horizon Health Partners. Pretended to be a family member. "Hi, I'm calling about my grandmother, Eleanor Whitaker. She's receiving services through your palliative care program, and I wanted to confirm her next appointment." The woman on the phone sounded kind. "Let me pull up her file." One moment.
Pause. Okay, yes.
Eleanor Whitaker. She has a telepsychiatry session scheduled for July 22nd at 10 a.m. Is that what you needed?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anything else I can help you with? Actually, can you remind me what diagnosis code she's being treated for? I'm handling her insurance paperwork. Longer pause. I'm not supposed to share that over the phone without verification, but since you're listed as her secondary contact, she's being treated for delusional disorder and dependent personality traits. I thanked her. Hung up. Sat on my couch for an hour, staring at the wall. Delusional disorder. Dependent personality traits. Eleanor wasn't just old and fragile. She was mentally ill. And Arthur was taking care of her.
Alone.
In a small apartment. With no help. For the first time, I felt something other than anger. I felt sad. And then I felt something worse. I felt like I understood. July 21st. I found Diane. Took me 2 days of searching, but I found a work email for her through LinkedIn. She was a compliance officer at a medical device company in Portland. I sent her a message. Asterisk, "Hi Diane. You don't know me, but I live in the apartment above your mother and brother in Phoenix. I'm reaching out because I'm experiencing some issues with Arthur, and I wanted to understand the family situation better. Would you be willing to talk? No pressure. Thanks, Chloe. Asterisk. She replied in 6 hours. Asterisk Chloe. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. I can't talk about my family in detail, but I will say, if Arthur is making your life difficult, it's because my mother is making his life impossible. He won't leave her. He won't get her real help. He just tries to control everything around him, so he can pretend everything's fine. I left because I couldn't watch it anymore. Good luck, asterisk. I read it 10 times. He won't leave her. He's trapped. And suddenly, I understood the whole thing. The noise complaints weren't about noise. They were about control. Arthur couldn't control his mother's illness, so he was trying to control everything else. The neighbors, the sounds, the environment. If he could just make everything quiet enough, still enough, controlled enough, maybe she'd be okay. But she wouldn't be okay. She was never going to be okay. And he was drowning. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about Arthur, sitting in that apartment, trying to manage an 84-year-old woman with delusions and dependent personality disorder. No support system. No siblings helping. No respite care. Just him, going to work every day, coming home, and trying to keep it all together. And I kept thinking about Mark's words. What are you going to do? I knew what I could do. I knew exactly what I could do. The question was, should I? July 24th. I printed everything. The acoustic report. The complaint timeline. The screenshots of Diane's divorce filing. The photo of the medical package label.
The email from Diane.
The building policy documents showing most complaints were outside of quiet hours. I put it all in a folder. A real, physical folder from Staples, the kind with the metal clasp. Then I sat at my kitchen table, and I stared at it. Mark came over that night. He could tell something was wrong. You okay? I need to tell you something. I walked him through everything. The complaints, the research, the sister, the palliative care, the psychiatric diagnosis. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. So, what are you going to do? He asked. I could report them. Report them for what? Arizona has vulnerable adult protection laws. If someone's in a situation where they're not receiving adequate care, you can request a wellness check. It's anonymous. Mark looked at the folder. You think she's not getting adequate care? I think she's mentally ill, and he's the only one taking care of her, and it's clearly not working. But is she in danger? I didn't answer right away. Because that was the question, wasn't it? Was Eleanor in danger? Or was she just old and sick and being cared for by a son who is doing his best? I don't know, I said finally. Maybe. Chloe. Mark's voice was gentle. This guy's been making your life hell for over a month. You have every right to be angry. But if you report them and it turns out she's fine and they investigate and find nothing, you're just going to escalate things. And if I don't report them, this never stops. He's never going to stop, Mark. He can't. Because the problem isn't me. The problem is that his mom is sick and he's drowning, and he doesn't know how to ask for help. So, you're going to force him to get help. I'm going to make sure she's safe. And if that means he has to face the fact that he can't do this alone, then yeah, maybe that's what needs to happen. Mark looked at me for a long time. Then he said, just make sure you can live with it. July 26th. I called Adult Protective Services. It was a Friday, 10:15 in the morning. Arthur had already left for work. I'd been pacing my apartment for an hour, phone in hand, trying to decide. Finally, I dialed. Adult Protective Services, this is Monica. How can I help you?
Hi.
I need to report a potential vulnerable adult situation. Okay. Can you describe what you're seeing? I took a breath. I live above an elderly woman who I believe has mental health issues. She never leaves the apartment. I've never seen any home health aides or support services. Her son is the only caregiver, and he seems really overwhelmed. I'm worried she's not getting adequate care. What makes you think she has mental health issues? I saw a package delivered to her from a palliative care behavioral health service. And her behavior patterns. She sits in the same spot all day. She's up at random hours. She doesn't appear to go outside ever. Is there any immediate danger? Signs of physical abuse or neglect? I don't know. I can't see inside their apartment. That's why I'm calling. Monica asked for their address. Eleanor's name. Arthur's name. My contact information. We'll send someone to do a welfare check within 72 hours, she said. They'll assess the situation and determine if any intervention is needed. Is there anything else? Will they know I called? The report is confidential. We don't disclose who made the report unless required by law. I thanked her, hung up. Then I sat on my couch, and I waited. July 28th. Monday. 2 days after I made the call. I was working from home, sitting at my desk, trying to focus on a prototype for a medication reminder app. Around 10:30, I heard voices outside. I looked out the window. 2 people. A woman in business casual and a man in a sheriff's uniform. They were walking toward the building entrance. My heart stopped. I stood up, walked to my door, pressed my ear against it. I could hear them knocking downstairs. Heard Arthur's door open. Heard voices muffled, but I could make out the tone. Professional.
Calm.
Arthur's voice higher-pitched, defensive. They were inside for maybe 20 minutes. When they came out, Arthur was with them. He was carrying a duffel bag. The woman was guiding him gently toward the parking lot. Eleanor wasn't with them. I watched from my kitchen window, hiding behind the curtain. They talked by the sheriff's car for a while. Arthur kept gesturing back at the building. The woman kept nodding, writing things down. Finally, Arthur got into his Honda and drove away. The woman and the sheriff went back inside. They were in the apartment for another 40 minutes. When they came out, they were with Eleanor. She was walking slowly, using a walker I'd never seen before. She looked tiny, fragile. The woman had her hand on Eleanor's back, guiding her. They helped her into a white van marked Desert Valley Transit Services. And then they were gone. I stood at my window until the van disappeared. Then I threw up in my kitchen sink. August 2nd. I got a letter from management. Asterisk, dear residents, please be advised that Unit 204 is currently vacant. If you have any questions, please contact the leasing office. Asterisk. That was it. No explanation. No details. I went down to the leasing office. Jessica was at the desk again. What happened to the people in 204? I asked. She looked uncomfortable. I can't really discuss other tenants. Are they coming back? The lease was terminated. That's all I can tell you. Did they terminate it or did you? She didn't answer. I left. August 5th. I got a voicemail. Unknown number. I almost didn't listen to it, but something made me press play. This message is for Chloe Martinez. This is Monica from Adult Protective Services. I wanted to follow up on the report you filed regarding Eleanor Whitaker. Our assessment found that Ms. Whitaker was experiencing significant psychiatric symptoms and was not receiving adequate medical management. She's been placed in a residential care facility with behavioral health support. Her son has been connected with caregiver resources and family counseling services. Thank you for your report. You may have prevented a serious crisis. She left a callback number if I had questions. I deleted the voicemail. Then I sat on my couch and I cried. Not because I felt guilty. Not because I felt relieved. Because I didn't know what I felt. Mark came over that night. I told him about the voicemail. See, he said. She needed help. You did the right thing. Did I?
Chloe.
She was mentally ill and not getting proper treatment. He couldn't handle it alone. Something bad would have happened eventually. Or maybe he would have figured it out. Maybe he would have reached out for help on his own. He had 4 years to do that.
He didn't.
I looked at Mark. He lost his mom. He lost his apartment. His life just got destroyed. His life was already destroyed. You just forced him to deal with it. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But I kept thinking about Arthur's face when he walked out with that duffel bag. The way he kept looking back at the building. He wasn't angry. He was broken. August 12th. I was walking Biscuit. Same route.
Same time.
11 p.m. I saw someone standing by the dumpster enclosure. For a second, my whole body went cold. I thought it was Arthur. But it wasn't. It was just some kid from the building, taking out trash. I realized I'd been holding my breath. I walked Biscuit around the block. Past the spot where Arthur had first approached me. Past the parking space where his Honda used to be. The space was empty. September 3rd. I saw Eleanor. I wasn't looking for her. I swear I wasn't. But I was driving back from Target and I passed a care facility off Indian School Road. Desert Sage Memory Care. And there she was, sitting in a wheelchair in the courtyard, wearing a pink cardigan, looking at a bird feeder. She looked peaceful. I drove home and I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel relieved. I just felt tired. It's been 4 months since Arthur and Eleanor left. Unit 204 got rented in September. A couple in their 30s with a toddler. I met them in the elevator once. They seem nice. The kid's loud, lots of running and toy trucks, but I don't mind. It feels like life. The complaints stopped. Obviously. Management never apologized. Never acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, the problem wasn't me. But whatever. I don't care anymore. Mark and I broke up in October. Nothing dramatic. We just weren't working. He kept saying I'd changed after everything with Arthur. That I'd become harder. I don't know if that's true. Maybe I just stopped pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. I still work from home. Still walk Biscuit at night. Still live in Unit 304. But I think about them sometimes. Arthur and Eleanor. What their life looks like now. I looked up Desert Sage Memory Care once. They have a Facebook page. They post photos of residents doing activities. Art classes.
Music therapy.
Garden walks. I scrolled through months of photos, looking for Eleanor. Never found her. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe she's somewhere in there, being taken care of by people who actually know what they're doing. And Arthur. I don't know where he is. If he visits her. If he blames me, assuming he figured out I was the one who called. If he's getting the help Monica said they'd connected him with. I hope he is. I really do. Because here's the thing I've realized. He wasn't the villain. He was just a guy trying to hold everything together with duct tape and denial. And I wasn't the hero. I was just a person who got tired of being collateral damage. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. If there was another way. If I should have just moved instead of blowing up his entire life. But then I remember the banging. The complaints. The way he made me feel unsafe in my own home. The way he was using his mother's illness as a weapon to control everything around him because he couldn't control what was actually wrong. And I think, maybe what I did wasn't kind, but it was necessary. Last week, I got a letter. Forwarded from management. No return address. Postmarked from Phoenix. Just 2 lines handwritten. Asterisk, she's safe now. Thank you. Asterisk. It wasn't signed. I don't know if it was from Arthur. Or Diane. Or someone else who knew Eleanor. But I kept it. I put it in the folder with all the other documents. The acoustic report. The complaint timeline. The photo of the medical package. And I put the folder in the back of my closet. I don't look at it. But I know it's there. So let me ask you something. If you were in my position, if you had a neighbor who was making your life hell, not because they were evil, but because they were drowning, would you have done what I did? Would you have made the call? Or would you have just moved? Just walked away? Because I don't know if there's a right answer. I don't know if what I did was revenge or rescue. I don't know if I'm the person who saved Eleanor or the person who destroyed Arthur. Maybe I'm both. I still live in Unit 304. 3rd floor. Corner unit. Walls so thin, I can hear my neighbor's phone vibrate. The apartment below me is full of life now. A toddler running around. Parents laughing. Toy trucks crashing into walls. And I sit at my desk and I work on user interfaces, and sometimes I hear the banging of a toy drum or a kid jumping off a couch. And I smile. Because that's what normal sounds like. That's what life sounds like. And for the first time in months, I'm not afraid of making noise. If you've ever been in a situation like this, where you had to choose between your own peace and someone else's survival, where you weren't sure if you were helping or hurting, where you did something you can't take back and you're still trying to figure out if it was right, leave a comment. Tell me I'm not the only one who's lived in this gray area. Tell me where you draw the line. Tell me if you think I went too far. Or tell me you would have done the same thing. Because I read every single comment. And I need to know I'm not alone in this. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. Real stories. Complicated stories. Stories that don't have easy answers. Because life doesn't come with a hero and a villain. Sometimes it's just two people trying to survive, and someone has to lose. Thanks for listening.